I wanted to answer a few questions on this video that I've been getting from different people. And their questions are about the wax that I use, which is Crayola crayon. This is an old family tradition, and basically what my mom did was let us kids hard boil eggs. We used edible dyes because we were going to eat these eggs, and then she would wax it. She saved her wax from year to year. She liked it when it got real dark. So each time I use my wax, it gets darker and darker. Even this white Crayola crayon will darken because it's kind of burning as I'm using it. You can kind of see the smoke coming off of it, which does lead me to, I do use a couple different filters. I have air filters and stuff running, and I have a nose plug in that is also helping me filter anything, coming off of that. Here, I just took that out. You can see I have a flame in here. This is just a little fragrance warmer that I get from Dollar Tree. I ordered it online. I have not found them in the stores for years. But online you can find them. They're very inexpensive. And I order like a case at a time. But so that little burner is giving off a little bit of smoke. I use the filters and the nose filter. But to regulate the heat is the hardest part of doing this. People are saying maybe that their wax isn't sticking properly. I mean, you can see here every time it's sticking to the egg, and that is the design. So that your egg will have texture. It has the wax on there for this type of decorating. I do several different types of decorating where I will do beeswax on, dye them, wax them, dye them, wax them, and take it back off. So that's more like the Ukrainian style eggs that I've seen, that they use a kiska where I use the head of a pin. So that comes to that too. That is literally just a pin in the end of an eraser. So I push it right into the eraser end. Those erasers are deeper than what you think it is. It looks like it ends at that gold part there. It doesn't. It's still like another 1/4 inch long. So if you push that pin in there, and they make different pins that are different sizes. So this first one that I'm using here is more like a quilting pin, and it has a bigger head on it. I'm sure when they're making quilts, you don't want it to slip through. You want it to get stuck so it doesn't go through the quilt. So it has a little bit bigger head on it. And then I have 3 more pencils sitting there with different size pins on it. And some of them I love, some of them I don't. I kind of stick this one here. I will literally only use 3 pins on this one. 3 different size pin heads. So you can make your tool and it lasts, I don't want to say forever. I have had some that the metal on it ends up breaking down, but I literally use these for years and years. I did have one that lasted me probably 10 years before it started to sort of break down. But it is such a simple tool. I like these shorter pencils. These are like little golf pencils. And I had just bought like a little pack of them. And those are lasting me for years. So this really is a sort of inexpensive. The most expensive thing on this egg was probably the spray paint, which I will get a lot of use out of a can of spray paint. But that's probably the most expensive thing. And if you use, I could have dyed this egg. I could have dyed it a brown and then waxed on top of it, or, however I wanted to do it. But I love when I paint them like this, that it's the true color that I want. It's not going to rub off. I barely have to seal it when I'm done. This is a matte brown that I'm using on this. And sometimes I like to spray paint over them to put a clear sealant on it. These I actually will not, because I have noticed that it changes the look of the egg, and I really like how these are turning out. So I really won't even put a sealant on top of this. It really doesn't need it. You see me sometimes wiping off the side of my pencil eraser part of it on that napkin sitting there. And it really does kind of wear down the eraser a little bit at times, where what is happening is that wax is sort of creeping up onto the pencil, onto the eraser end of it. And if it gets to be too much, it could drip on your egg, which that to me, it just it ruins it. Then I have to try and scrape it off or whatever. So I'm always mindful that that wax can kind of creep up on there. If it's getting hot, uh, almost maybe too hot, that it can kind of creep up on it a little bit. And I don't want a drip to happen. So so always be mindful of that. And I kind of like there. I just wiped it off on the napkin. And that's just to keep it from dripping. So, and people have also asked where this came from. So this design, honestly, I see on here is closest to what my mother did. She always divided her eggs up into three sections. So literally, the section that I'm working at right now is pretty much what I can see just looking straight down on the egg. And so that is my workspace. And her eggs always nicely turned out to be three-sided. Her aunt taught her this, which is from my grandfather's side. My grandfather, his documentation, he had put that he was born in Jawornik, Galicia, Poland. And I'm sorry if I said Galicia wrong, or Glacia, or however you say that. Uh, so, and grandma was Polish, but this came from my grandfather's side, which his ethnicity said he put Rusniak, Russniak, Rusniak. And we never quite understood that because he did speak a different language than my grandmother did. Now here I am adding a little bit more white wax. A lot of times if I want to cool it down, I'll add just a little bit more wax, kind of stir it around, make sure it's not getting thick or whatnot. I'm using a different size pin head here now. I'm using the next size down, the next size smaller. And again, the hardest part is getting your wax to the right temperature. If it's too hot, it's not going to work right. If it's too cold, it's not going to stick at all. Now, these eggs, like I said, I've had certain eggs from my mom. When I had my children, I wanted to save some eggs of my mother's. And I went ahead and cleaned out a dozen, took them to her and said, I want you to decorate these this year with, doing your waxing so that I can keep them. So I can give them to friends so that I can keep some for my children. And she did for the first couple years. She took my eggs and she made her eggs, but she also said, anybody that was in the house that day, she said, come on out. We all sat around on the patio and she showed us how to do the eggs, like really talked about it then and showed us how you kind of divide up the egg. And I was so determined to learn this. My first eggs looked terrible. So if you should try this, don't be discouraged right away. It definitely takes a little bit of practice to get it down. It's kind of fun to see when people try it that they come up with different designs and stuff. I always get very stuck on what my mother did. I definitely have a lot of designs that are my own, but I kind of always don't want to stray too far from what my mother did. So, and this egg here is really one of the closest. She always divided her eggs into three and then had separators. Like that's what I'm working on now, is the separation between the three main designs on the egg. She always made sure, so her eggs were divided in three, and then a lot of times she put dots of threes. So on almost every egg of mine, well, pretty much every egg, you'll see three dots on every egg, and that's supposed to represent the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. Now, my mother didn't teach me that, but I had read that in different documentation that says, what the dots represent, that the tears of Mary, it really do, each one mark does either look like a dot or a teardrop, And that is supposed to represent the tears that Mary cried when Jesus died on the cross, which I think is a beautiful way to look at this. So you do keep Christ in each egg, the thought of the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. So I do love making these, and I make them all year round. Traditionally, it is done during Lent, which is this time of the year. And I am crazy busy with this at this time of the year. But I hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you so much for watching. Thank you.